Hello and welcome to another episode of Draft Gym TV. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Teach Mode, and we are finally getting into the real meaty bit of our predicted table. So we're going to go from 6th to 1st today, which is obviously very exciting. You can see a little bit of a teaser down below to see which teams we're going to be talking about, but I think it's pretty obvious which teams we're going to be talking about really. As always, like and subscribe. It really helps. Our subscribers are starting to go up a bit now before the season starts, which is brilliant. So hopefully lots of you are starting to make your drafts in FanTeam. Obviously, I am here on behalf of draftgym.com. Make sure you do go over there. The content we are pumping out now is awesome. And one of the things that I did want to show you, just to the, that way, left of me. I never get that right. Just to the left of me there is an article from Rob Pick. It's the FPL debate Season 2, Episode 1. He does one of these each week. And this week, it's all about whether it's Bruno or Brew Yes. We're going to be talking about that a little bit today when we get on to Man United and when you find out where Man United are in our table. Really worth having a look at, and it's actually, I think, a really worthwhile thing to talk about as to whether you're going to go with him or not. He's expensive in the game, and do we go with him in our teams? We know what he can do, but he also finished the season poorly by his standards, so it's worth having a look at. But I'm not going to go into it too much detail. Have a read. It's brilliant. At the end of it as well, he does go into all the stats and everything. It's really worth having a look at. And he does give a conclusion as well. And then at the end, he does go through a few other little debates as well. And they're probably debates that you're having with yourself literally as you're making your team. So it is really worth having a look at. Works for FPL and for FanTeam. So if you're a fan of both, it is right up your street. I know it might sound that I've been plugging Rob Pick a little bit recently, but the way he writes and stuff is brilliant. So that's why I've picked him. But there is some other fantastic content on that website. You must make sure you go to it and check it all out. So today, then, we're going to be focusing on the teams from 6th to 1st. Really excited to get going with these because these are, like I said, are the meaty ones, aren't they? They're the ones that we're going to be looking at them. We're going to be thinking, who do we want from these teams? Who is overpriced? Who's underpriced? Who's key assets? Who do we want to start the season with? Who's not ready to start the season, which I think is really important as well. What I've tried to focus on at the moment is what the team's going to look like in game week 1. That is very different to what I think the best team is, but it's where I think we're going to be in game week 1, which is a lot of teams are struggling at the moment to get their first choice team out. So it's going to be interesting having a look at it. Really excited tomorrow night, so Sunday night, which is just 5 days before the season starts. I'm going to be doing a live stream looking at my entries and answering any questions you've got. So make sure you're tuned in, and I'm really looking forward to seeing lots of you on Sunday night. So start us off then. Obviously, we finished off last week with Spurs, who we thought were going to finish in 7th place. In 6th place, we think is going to be Arsenal. Now, you'll notice there that Ben White is in blue and white. That's because on my spreadsheet that we've been using, we haven't managed to change his kit yet. But that doesn't matter because at least we know that he's going to be starting. Now, when we're looking at this team, I think it's hard to trust Arsenal to begin with. They've got Brentford away first game, which on paper is a nice fixture, but then they've got 2 not very nice fixtures after that in Man City and I believe Chelsea. I can't remember who the third one is. Because of that, I'm finding it hard to invest in these players early on. There are some players that I think are very good value and who I think will be in my team eventually, or do I put them in my team to start with, and if they play well against Brentford, their price goes up? That is something that could happen as well. I will mention, by the way, on the last stream, I did keep mentioning that about the bonus points for playing 90, and I think I mentioned in there that defenders get that. They don't get that. I do apologise. I say that now. Midfielders and strikers get that extra bonus point for playing 90. Defenders don't, so it's worth saying. Now, Leno in goal. I think there was a little bit of chat about him potentially going and Ramsdale being linked with him. I think for now he seems to be first choice. He's a good keeper. He makes a few mistakes in a year, but Arsenal were the 3rd best defence in the league last year in terms of conceding goals. So I don't mind Arsenal defensively. Leno, I think for 5 million, like I've said before, I would rather go 4.5 or go 5.5 and go for Martinez. So I'm struggling with Leno personally, but if at the moment he's a nail keeper, so that's fine. Tierney, I think Tierney is due at some point to have a injury-free year where he does really well. And I mean, he's got so much potential, and Arsenal love him, Scotland love him. He's a great player. It's just keeping him fit. If he can keep fit, there's no reason why he can't have a really good year. But I think for such an injury-prone player, he's going to need to show me he can start 10 games in a row before I trust him. So if he can do that and he's starting to have a really good year, then maybe I'll have a look at him. I think White is one of the best 4.5 million defenders in the game, personally. I think they've bought him for a lot of money. He's going to be playing. He's a good player. Arsenal are a good defence. 4.5 million, I think, is a gift in this game. So I love him. I think he's been in a lot of my drafts as one of my bench players. He's not somebody I want to be starting every week because there's not a lot of upside, but he's perfect in terms of he's going to be playing pretty much every game for Arsenal. So get him into your bench and be happy with a 4.5 million defender there for me. Gabriel, Gabriel, I think 5 million, I'd be all over Ben White instead. And then Chambers, yes, 4.5 million, he's going to be their right back to start, but is he going to be their right back moving into the season a bit further on? No, I don't really want somebody that I'm not going to play in the first. Well, I might play him in the first week, but I'm not going to play in the second or third. And then will he lose his place? Most probably. So I'm not going anywhere near Chambers. Ben White's definitely my pick at the back there. Now, in midfield, I think we've got some genuine bargains here. I think Emil Smith-Rowe, for me, I absolutely love. They've just given him the 10 shirt. They've just given him a long-term contract. I genuinely think he's going to have a great year. Am I going to start with him? Probably not. He's a great 5.5. He's genuinely, I think he's one of the best 5.5 million midfielders in the game. I just think over the course of the season, he probably gets more points than any other midfielder at his price. Personally, I think that's how good he is. I feel like this team is starting to be built around players like him a little bit, but players like him and Saka, I think they're starting to build it like that. Arteta likes using youth players as well, and he likes the fact that he's kind of nurtured Smith-Rowe into this starting player. He's given him the number 10 for a reason. I think from game week 4 onwards, if I was looking to downgrade a midfielder, it would be to Smith-Rowe that I was going for. Their fixtures look a lot kinder after game week 3, so I think that's when I would probably invest in him. Genuinely, by the end of the season, he'll be great. Will I start with him? I think it's really tough. He's cheap enough to be able to start with, but I don't think I'd maybe go with it straight away. I think I'm happy to wait a little bit. Saka for 6.5 million is another one. I think it's tough, the fact he's 1 million more, but he's such a good player on that wing. We saw him in it for England, how good he was as well. He knows how to get to the byline. He knows how to cut it back. I think for 6.5 million, I feel like there's going to be a time this season where we own both Smith-Rowe and Saka at the same time. Because for 12 million, which is how much they cost between them, I think you're going to struggle to get better value than that. When you look up front with Aubameyang there at 9.5, I don't see myself owning him at any point. Whereas Saka and Smith-Rowe, I really like both of them. So they are both firmly on my watch list. Saka is a tough one to start with because he may not start the season due to how far we got into the Euros and how much of a part he played in it. But they're both firmly on my watch list. Firmly. I've said firmly a lot. El Neni and Xhaka, you're not going to be touching really. El Neni is a defensive midfielder who does have a yellow card in him. Xhaka is exactly the same. There was a season, I think when they first signed Xhaka, that he got 2 assists in the first game. I think it was when they played Leicester and they drew 3-3. And all of a sudden everybody started investing in him. Don't do that. If he does that again this season, just don't do it. He's a defensive midfielder. He's not going to be getting you the returns you want, even for 5 million. So I'd be more inclined to own El Neni for 4.5 million just because I want bench fodder from that midfielder. So don't touch either of those. Pepe, though, interesting one with Pepe. He's ended the season spectacularly. He was one of the highest scoring midfielders to end the season. But 7.5 million, I'm finding it hard to justify 7.5 million when Smith-Rowe's 5.5 and Saka's 6.5. Did Pepe just finish the season well, or is this the new Pepe that we're seeing? Hard to know, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I will own Pepe because Saka and Smith-Rowe are so much cheaper, and I feel offered just as much upside as him. So I feel like that's a tough ask for me. And then Aubameyang up front. It could also be Lacazette up front at times, or Aubameyang maybe plays a little bit wider. Such a good asset not that long ago, but I mean last season, I don't know whether he's lost interest or whether they're just not playing to his strengths. But since Arteta's come in, I mean, Aubameyang just has not been the same player that we're used to. If he gets back to his glory days, then yes, maybe 9.5 million looks good. But when you've got all these nice priced assets in, Wilson, Antonio, Watkins, Ings, Kane's going to be moving potentially, or even if he doesn't move, Lukaku's going to be coming into this league soon as well. I feel like Aubameyang's going to be the forgotten man, and that's probably for a reason as well. So In terms of the three players that I really like for Arsenal in FanTeam, I think Smith Rowe and Saka are 100% in there for me on my watch list, and Ben White I think will probably be in my drafts as well because he's perfect on the bench. Right, next team, the team that we think are going to finish in 5th are Leicester, and this is fresh from I've literally just watched them beat Man City in the Community Shield. Great result for them. Leicester, I think it is worth saying, have been ravaged with injury. Yet again, they've got Fofana, 4.5 million defender. He has now got a broken fibula, broken leg. We will not be seeing him for a little while now, unfortunately. And I think he was probably on a lot of people's benches. He was just like Ben White, 4.5 million. I think in terms of those 4.5 million defenders, it was Fofana, Ayling, and the player I literally just mentioned, Ben White, for 4.5 million. I think was great. Now I think it hurts Leicester. And obviously it hurts Fofana. But there is Ryan Bertrand there that is going to start the season playing at left back for 4.5 million. He showed promise at Southampton, but never obviously really did it in terms of consistency. But maybe he has a bit more of a chance now at Leicester. I feel like if he starts well, he's got up until Christmas maybe, because they've got their young lad at left back who's not quite fit to start the season, and they've also got James Justin as well, who's not quite fit yet either. Will be coming around maybe about October, November time, hopefully. Schmeichel, I think, is a great keeper. I feel like this defence has been compromised a little bit, so I'd be struggling to pick him. But for 5 million, he's an able keeper. He knows what he's doing. They will keep some clean sheets, obviously, Leicester, but it's tough to see them keeping more clean sheets than some of the other players that we're going to be talking about today. So, yeah, I do really like... it's so tough. I really like Leicester, but because of this Fofana injury, it's so hard to see them progressing on, if that makes sense. I'd probably put them 6th now, and I'd probably put Arsenal 5th personally. But there you go. Ricardo Pereira, we know what he's about. He will get forward. There will be times he potentially plays in that kind of right wing position as well. 5.5 million, I think, is tough for a player if you're not sure about clean sheets. You're going to be wanting clean sheets and attacking returns for 5.5 million. But we know what he's about, and he is a cracking player. So I think Soyuncu and Ndidi I wouldn't be touching anyway. And then when we get into midfield, there are a few options here. Perez I wouldn't be going near, mainly because that Daka looks quality. So Daka's somebody that I'm definitely got on my watch list. He looks rapid as well. So I think he's probably going to end up playing on that right wing. Tielemans, I think when you got Tielemans and Maddison there, I remember when a little while ago when Leicester were having a good season, it was all about who do we pick, Maddison or Tielemans. If Maddison stays, I think you pay the extra 0.5 million and you get Maddison. Maddison is going to be on the free kicks. He's going to be on a lot of the corners as well. He's a player that gets forward a lot more than Tielemans. And although Tielemans has got the odd goal in him, you're not going to be relying on it. Whereas Maddison, I feel like you can rely on a little bit more. I think if Maddison has got his head back in this Leicester team and he starts, which you're thinking he will do anyway, I think 7 million could be quite a good price for him personally. Sumer, 5 million is defensive midfielder, that's fine. Harvey Barnes though, here we go, 7 million. If I were to pick my midfielder that I would want from this team, it is Harvey Barnes. It's 7 million. He looks so good at the moment. He's had a good pre-season. He played a blinder against Man City. He did look a little bit ex-lively, where he's looking lively but not actually getting you the return. So that is worth looking at. He's also just come back from an injury, so that is definitely worth looking at too. Will he play 90 minutes? Probably not. He's one of those players where when you get to 60, you're starting to think, oh, he's going to get subbed off. Even if he scored a brace, you're thinking he's going to get subbed off in a minute. Will this be the season where they completely trust him and they give him all those minutes? It could be. Are we seeing that yet? Probably not. So he might be somebody that kind of develops as the season goes on and you start thinking, yeah, now I want to invest in him. He's somebody that I've toyed with starting with, but I feel like in FPL it's fine to have him because you're getting your 2 points when he passes 60 anyway. But really you want that midfielder that's going to get you to 90 minutes and get you that extra point, because as we were saying before, when you've got midfielders and strikers that are doing that for you, it's worth an extra 6-7 points sometimes. So it's definitely worth doing. So Harvey Barnes is somebody that I need to see that he's getting those consistent minutes and getting up to those 90 minutes all the time. And do I see it quite yet? Probably not. So it is worth having a look at. And then that man, Jamie Vardy up top, 9.5 million. Iheanacho, it's such a shame. He finished the season so well, but it looks like he's not going to be starting at the moment. He scored the winner against Man City just a minute ago, but that was as a sub and as a penalty. So I am worried that Iheanacho won't be a mainstay in this team all the time. Jamie Vardy is slowly working his way out, but he is somebody that I feel like he will probably start the season really well and nobody owns him. So if you fancy a 9.5 million man who is on penalties, has some nice fixtures to start with as well, then Jamie Vardy might be your man. Will he be in my teams? No, because that's not the way I'm playing it this year with those 9.5 million strikers. But he is that player that does it. And I think I saw a stat the other day that said he was offside so many times last year, and because of the thicker lines they're using, it could be that he starts to get a few more goals because of that. You never know. So it's worth having a look at him, I think, especially if you fancy somebody that is not going to be that highly owned, but is very, very capable of hauling. So in terms of my players that I like, I think I would be going... Oh, it's tough. I think I'd be going with Harvey Barnes, Maddison, and then just it's tough between Bertrand and Schmeichel. I think I'm going to go Schmeichel just because of security of starts there. Now, the team we think is going to finish fourth, and this is quite a big one, is Liverpool. Liverpool, such a massive team, such a massive FPL team as well. Been so good for us for so long because their points come from just the main kind of players. So when we have a look at this team, Alisson in goal for 6 million. I don't think I'd be going for Alisson in goal because I don't want to waste a valuable Liverpool spot on Alisson, basically. Yes, he scored that goal last year, but I mean, he's not going to be doing that every year, is he? So I wouldn't be going with Alisson. Konate and Matip, I think it's worth mentioning that Van Dijk will be back soon. Same with Gomez as well. But I'm expecting that first game to be Konate and Matip, which is a little bit worrying in terms of clean sheet. But I mean, they're playing against Norwich first, aren't they? So we're hoping that Van Dijk will be back when their fixtures get a bit trickier. When Van Dijk is back, this team is completely different. They keep clean sheets against tough opposition. He is that general at the back that sorts everything else out. So when he's back, this team, the double up in defence is great. It's worth mentioning as well, he's only 6 million in this game. Really good value for him. I would be more tempted to own Van Dijk when he's back, as long as he shows me he's fit and he's fine, over Robertson for $1 million. I really would. I feel like you can do a lot with that $1 million. Now, Robertson and Trent. Genuinely, Trent has been in all of my drafts. An absolutely brilliant player. He will get you a few shots on target in games. He will get you crosses. He'll get you a few goals. 7.5 million seems like a lot, but honestly, he's nailed in my teams. I'm not going to talk too much about him. Robertson, though, if you wanted to spend 0.5 million less and go for Robertson, I don't think that's that bad of an idea. Just be prepared that Trent, he's one of those players that if you don't own him, he really punishes you. Robertson finished the season really well, but if it were me and I didn't fancy any of the 7 million midfielders, I would go for Robertson in my team and double up with Trent and Robertson. Genuinely, I feel like their fixtures are so lovely to start with. And the difference with Trent and Robertson are they can give you what midfielders can't. They're better than those 7 million midfielders. So why not just have them both in your team to start with? Start with some of those, bargain midfielders that we've spoken about already. People like Emile Smith-Rowe and Buemo, and have Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In the middle of the part there, Fabinho, Thiago, Milner, I don't think I'd be going near any of those because they are literally just there to make sure the ball gets to those lovely front three. Now, the front three here, it is worth mentioning. I've got Firmino in the top there. It is more than likely Firmino's not going to be starting. It's going to be Jota. But I put Firmino in there just because we're not 100% yet. I think Jota will most probably start, so it is worth mentioning that. And Jota, I think, is a good player to have a look at in your teams. Will he get 90 minutes every week? No. He genuinely will not get 90 minutes every week. Will he start every week? No. And that is why I don't like Jota personally. Do I like Firmino? God, no. I don't like Firmino. The one thing I do like about FanTeam, though, is they have priced him correctly. 7.5 million for Firmino is about the price he should be. Not 9 million like FPL have priced him before. 7.5 million is right. When can you play Firmino? When he's playing Arsenal. Loves playing against Arsenal, but none other time, please. Now, the other two then, Mane and Salah. Salah has been in every single one of my teams, one of the best players in the entire league. He is a proven goal scorer, proven point scorer for FanTeam and FPL as well. 12.5 million, again, seems like a lot, but he is worth it for me. He is so captainable. I will be captaining Salah 4 out of the first 6 games in these game weeks. He's that good for me and that good as a captain. Mane, I love the fact he is 2.5 million less than Salah. It really makes me think that there are going to be people out there thinking, do I go for Mane over Salah? In FPL, there's only 0.5 million between them, and I don't think there's much of a discussion then. With him being 2.5 million less, just you start thinking what you can do with that 2.5 million, and actually, I feel like you can do a lot with it. And I've just said how good Salah is, and it's the fact they priced him at 10 million that makes you think you can do a lot with that 2.5. And Mane could do. He's not on penalties, which really doesn't help, but he finished the season well, and we know Mane can be electric. He had a bit of an off season last year, but he seemed to be back to his best by the end. He's had a whole pre-season. He didn't do any football in pre-season, so he's completely fresh and raring to go. What I am going to do, and I'm going to do it in at least one of my drafts, is have both. I'm going to have both Mane and Salah. Probably at the expense of Bruno, because I want both of them for those first lot of fixtures. And then Mane will probably be my cash cow to move off of him and go for someone like Lukaku when he comes in, or Kane when he comes in. So I like both. I also like anybody that's going to go for Mane over Salah. I think that's a great differential. And I also like anybody that goes for Salah. There's not a lot you can do wrong here, really. I'm saying that now. After game week 3, we might find out there is. So, who would I go for in this team? I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to go for 4. Salah, Mane, Robertson, Trent. If I had to pick, it would be at only 3. I'd get rid of Robertson. I go Trent, Salah, and Mane. But it is really worth watching Van Dijk when he comes back, because I think he could be better value than Robertson. Right, in third, we think it is going to be Manchester United. Now, Man United, it is worth saying, have made some fantastic signings this summer in Sancho and Varane. Will they be fit to start game week 1? They will not. So, this team is based on the fact that this is roughly what it could be in game week 1. We got a lot of players that are not going to be quite ready yet. Cavani's another one. Rashford's obviously out now as well, so it's going to be quite a makeshift team, but there are still some great components in there. De Gea in goal. He is not number 1 keeper anymore. Henderson is. But obviously De Gea is very good in goal. So if you're thinking about monsters and things like that. But I wouldn't be picking him because it's going to be Henderson's job. Same with Lindelof there. It's going to be Varane coming in when he comes in. But Lindelof will play game week 1. Luke Shaw, 6 million, I think is an interesting one. I think 6 million just pushes him into that do we include him. He is one of the most creative left-backs in the league, probably in the world at the moment. I mean, we saw him for England. He was absolutely incredible. And I don't see any reason why he can't continue that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got no problem with him getting forward and creating for the team. And he was one of our best creative outlets last year. He genuinely was. So I think for 6 million, if you've got him, you can keep him for the year as long as he's fit. So, yeah, I think if you're looking at the prices, 6 million for Van Dijk or Luke Shaw, I would be having Luke Shaw personally. The fixtures are quite nice to start with too. Maguire, 5.5 million. You know he's going to play 90 minutes every week, but obviously he doesn't get the extra point for that. But you know he's going to be playing. He's the captain. He is quite good from set pieces as well, and he did score a few last year. 5.5 million, I would definitely pay the extra 0.5 million and get Shaw myself. But if you wanted that security, then Maguire's fine. Wan-Bissaka, I don't think I would be going near, because for 5.5 million, I think I'd actually rather have Maguire. I'd definitely rather have Shaw. I'm also worried with Wan-Bissaka that when I think we're going to sign Trippier. I keep saying we, by the way, I'm a United fan. I think we're going to sign Trippier, and I think then that hurts Wan-Bissaka in terms of he might start going off earlier in games if we need a goal, and I feel like Trippier would be coming in. I also feel like Trippier might come in and stop Wan-Bissaka's minutes at times too. So I don't think Wan-Bissaka is the way I'd be going. Now, in midfield, I mean, we've got to start. I say we've got to start. I'm going to start with Fred and McTominay. You're not going to be going with either of those. Unless McTominay's playing against Leeds in the first 10 minutes, he's not going to get you a goal. But Bruno Fernandes, 12 million. Now, do we start with Bruno Fernandes? There's two camps here. There is, yes, we start with Bruno Fernandes. He's one of the best players in the entire game. He's 12 million. The fixtures are good. Leeds are tough. I don't think we're going to walk over Leeds personally. But he's on pens. United get a lot of penalties. He is the talisman for this team. Everything goes through him. If there's a goal for United and Bruno's not involved, you're shocked. He's also going to be so heavily owned. And I don't normally talk about ownership, but he will genuinely be so heavily owned. He'll be owned by 40-50% of people. And captaincy as well. I think a lot of people will be going for Salah, so he's not going to be as captain as we think, but it's going to be tough if he hauls in that first game and you don't have him. So I think for me, I'm going to have my 2 lots of drafts. One's going to have Bruno, one's not. I literally think he's that divisive at the moment in terms of you are either in the Bruno camp or the Bru yes camp, and I'm just going to split myself down the middle. I'm going to have one set of drafts that don't have him and one set of drafts that do, and you'd be surprised what you can do with that money. Imagine you've got Salah and Bruno and you get rid of Bruno and you get Mane. You've got 2 million to spend. It makes a massive difference. So yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do. But if you've only got one entry, you need to really, really think whether you want him to start with and whether you can handle him hauling and you not getting it. Pogba, I don't think I'd be going there. Mason Greenwood, though, 7.5 million. I think is going to start. He's definitely going to start against Leeds. Is he going to start after that? It's tough to say. With Rashford out, I thought he was going to be all over Greenwood, but actually with Martial now back as well, Cavani's obviously going to be getting minutes. Sancho's going to be back eventually too. Lingard, who's just tested positive coronavirus, but will probably be back right game week 2. He's going to take up a few minutes as well. So all of a sudden, Greenwood doesn't become that much of a nailed player for me. And again, I want my midfielders and strikers to be getting 90 minutes where possible, and I don't see that for him. So for 7.5 million, I think he's somebody to look at when United get a double game week or a triple game week, something like that. But I don't think I'd be going near him now to start with. And then Martial at top, again, I wouldn't be going near him either. I think his attitude isn't great. Yes, he's back and he's shaved his hair, but I don't think that's going to make enough difference for me to start with him. So in terms of the players I would be going with in this team, I think Bruno Fernandes is an easy one. I think Luke Shaw as well, I would definitely like in my team. And then if it was just for game week 1, I'd go Mason Greenwood. But if it wasn't, I think it would probably be Maguire. I think Sancho is worth looking at, though, when he comes in, because I think he's going to be electric in this league. Right. The team that we think are going to finish in second are Chelsea. Now, Chelsea had a great year last year as soon as Tuchel took over. He really started to... He set up his system so quickly. I think that's the thing that shocked everybody. He made great assets out of a lot of these players. He made players settle quicker as well, which was good. Obviously, it was halfway through the year, but it's all of a sudden players that weren't looking great before started looking really good again. Players like Havertz in particular, who we'll get onto. They don't have the easiest of fixtures, I wouldn't say. By game week 7, they've got a lovely game week 1 against Crystal Palace at home, which is great. Then they've got a few tough fixtures, and then by game week 7, they've got a glorious run. It is worth mentioning Lukaku is pretty much signed for this team. So although I've got Havertz up top there, that's where he's going to start in game week 1 most probably. Lukaku's going to be coming into this team. Now, if there's one thing that Tuchel's Chelsea do really, really well, it's keeping hold of the ball. Because they keep hold of the ball, they keep a lot of clean sheets. They're better attacking-wise than people think they are, but they do also they think about possession a lot more than they think about attacking at times. When we have a look at this team, there are some real players that I will be wanting in my team from game week 7 onwards. I think I am tempted to be playing my wild card in game week 7. If all goes well, I'll be using my wild card in game week 7 and I'll be getting a few of these Chelsea boys in. Now, if we have a look at it then, Mendy in goal, this is exactly the same as Liverpool. I wouldn't want to be wasting one of my Chelsea spots on Mendy in goal, I don't think. He's a great keeper, but I don't think I'll be wanting to spend 6 million on it. Chilwell and James could be great this year. If they play all the minutes, that's the biggest problem for him. If they play this 5 at the back again, with Rudiger, Silva and Azpilicueta at the back, and then Chilwell and Reece James as wing-backs, which is what they really should be doing in this formation, but I couldn't quite make it work. Chilwell and James are going to be going forward. Chilwell was fantastic last year at going forward. Reece James is one of the best crossers of the ball in the league and one of the best right-backs in the league as well. Are they both nailed? No. That is the biggest problem. Tuchel also liked to rotate. Chilwell has still got Alonso there. Alonso's still there. And when Alonso plays, especially as a wing-back, he is great. So it's really hard to say, yes, Chilwell's going to play every game because there is actually every possibility he can. And for 6 million, it's tough to invest in him when he's not definitely going to play. Whereas Reece James on the other side there for 5.5, it's easier to have him in because he's 0.5 million less. But at the same time, I would say Reece James is less nailed than Chilwell. So If we start seeing that they're playing every game, then yes, I think by game week 7 you could maybe take that gamble of going in with one of them, because I think the upside for him is there and is enough to mean that you can start with those kind of players, personally. When we get then into midfield, Kanté, Jorginho, I don't think you're going to start with. Jorginho's going to be taking the penalties, but it's still not quite enough. I mean, if Lukaku comes in, he might be, by the way. Werner, I don't think I'd be going near either. 8.5 million for a player that loves missing the goal rather than hitting the goal. Mason Mount for 7 million is somebody I am very, very much watching in the first 6 game weeks and then investing in him in game week 7 potentially. I think for 7 million, if this team carries on like they are and they get Lukaku, which is looking likely, I think Mount could be that player that is a perfect little middle of the road budget player that you can put into the middle of your team and be quite happy with for quite a while. And then we've got that main man Havertz up front. I love Havertz. I genuinely do. 8 million, I think, is a great price for him. He's going to be most probably playing up top for that first game week against Crystal Palace. I can see him getting good returns against Crystal Palace. He won't be there all the time, but then I think once someone like Lukaku comes in, he's going to be playing just off the striker, and that's perfect for him. Genuinely is perfect. He really settled down as the season went on. By the end of the year, he was their best player. He had a great Champions League, and I can see him really progressing this year. In terms of who I'm going to be looking at from game week 7 onwards in my team, I'm going to want Havertz. I'm going to want somebody like Mount, and it's going to be one of those wing-backs in Chilwell or James. So those are the 3 that I like the most. And then, shock horror, we've got Man City to win the league. Right. Who is going to play for Man City? This is the big question. Ederson in goal, absolutely nailed. 6 million. If you want a player and you want to know that he's definitely going to play, get Ederson. Do I want to be wasting, again, this is exactly the same as we've been talking about a lot. Do I want to be wasting one of my positions on Ederson? No, not really. Will he take penalty kicks? He could do, couldn't he? But I don't want to be wasting that personally. John Stones and Diaz, I think, are great prices. I think Diaz for 6 million, is he worth that extra 0.5? I think Diaz is more nailed than Stones, but I still think it's going to be them two at the back. I think Stones for 5.5 million is great, personally. We saw that he was great from set pieces last year. He scored quite a few goals. He got quite a few hauls in weeks as well, which I think is really valuable to have as a defender. I really, really like both of them. I love Cancelo as well. I think Cancelo, when he plays, is great. He's one of those only wing-backs that drifts into the middle of the park, which is something Pep's been really known for. He is a player that he seemed to just always threaten having a massive week. And one time he did have a really good week and then went off early, I think. So he is somebody that needs to be on your radar, but is he nailed? No. Zinchenko, he might start the season. Mendy started the Charity Shield today. Is Zinchenko nailed? No. Is Zinchenko good when he plays? Yes, he is actually quite good when he plays. And he had a really good Euros as well. So I think in this back line, it would be John Stones that I'm favouring the most, just because of that 0.5 million less that you're paying for him. And he's a really good player. He had a great Euros as well. So it's worth looking at that. But also it's worth thinking about the fact that Laporte is still there in the background, and Ake as well. So it's worth remembering that at any time Pep can ruin it for us. Now, in the middle here, we've got Gundogan, Fernandinho and Silva. Now, Silva is asking to leave, so he might not be there by the start of the season. Gundogan, though, I think 7.5 million. He was their top scorer last year. For 7.5 million, I'm not seeing him in a lot of teams. And I'm wondering whether the way City play, whether he can still be the one that gets forward. He can still be that one that's almost operating in that striker spot. So I think Gundogan's somebody that's firmly on my watch list, and I want to see how he's playing in the first couple of weeks, because for 7.5 million, he could still be a bargain this year. I mean, he was an absolute bargain last year, but for 7.5, I think he could be one of those players that we're surprised isn't in more teams. Up top, it's worth mentioning, by the way, Grealish has obviously gone here. I don't see him starting in game week 1. I genuinely don't see him starting in game week 1. This front three, we're also most probably going to be seeing Torres up top as well, so it might not be Jesus. Sterling might not start game week 1 either. The one player that will start game week 1, though, I am almost certain will start game week 2 against Norwich as well, is Mahrez. Mahrez had a really good pre-season. He's had the whole pre-season with City as well. Because of the injuries to this team, so Foden is out, De Bruyne is out. Like I said, Silva's looking to leave. Sterling had a long Euros. I think there has never been a time when Mahrez has been more nailed, and that is really making me want him in my team. He's 9 million FPL, he's 8.5 in this game. I think he's worth the gamble. Pep is going to be looking for goal scorers in this team because he doesn't have many left now. Like I said, Gundogan was their top scorer last year. Mahrez is one of their most proven goal scorers. He knows how to do it. He's got the confidence. He'll take things on. Will he be on penalties? He might be. It's worth having a look at somebody like Mahrez for me. I think for 8.5 million, I think I'm going to be starting with him in most of my teams. Personally, I think he's worth the gamble. Man City are that team where when you have got an asset you think is nailed, you put them in because they are better than any other team in the league. Genuinely are. And if they get Kane as well, Jesus Christ. But they're better than any other team in the league. They will get you more points than any other team in the league. But who is nailed, God knows. So if you think that Mahrez is, and I think he is, you need to get him in your team. That I genuinely think that. So for me, the 3 players that I would go with here, Mahrez, I think I'd go for Stones as well. And I think I'd go for Gundogan, actually. I think I'd fancy a bit of a punt on Gundogan, but I wouldn't want Gundogan and Mahrez. So, it'd be Mahrez, Gundogan and Stones, I think would be mine. Right, so there you go. We have finally gone through all 20 teams, and then we have our live stream tomorrow night, which is Sunday night, 5 days before the season starts. I will also be coming to you on Thursday night next week, preparing you for the Monster. So that will be the start of our weekly streams, and I'll be coming to you every Thursday talking about the Monster, talking about our teams, and answering any of your questions as well. I want to make it a bit of a routine. You know, you come on with me and you talk with me on Thursday nights, talking about all the dilemmas you have, all the questions you have, and maybe we'll start making some Monster teams as well. That'd be quite good fun. So thank you very much for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow night on Sunday for our first live stream of the 21-22 season. Cheers, good luck drafting, and oi oi.